We'll get started here shortly in about a minute or so. But while we are here, I wanted to kind of introduce you to the platform. So if you'll see a Q&A section or Q&A function on the platform. If you have any questions, you can click there and submit those questions, and we'll hold them to the end and answer all at the end. Well, I guess we can go ahead and get started here. Good morning. Good morning, Wolves. My name is Wamani Humphreys. I'm Senior Financial Aid Advisor in the Financial Aid Office at the University of West Georgia. I'm joined this morning by Leanne Hussey. She is the Director of the Financial Aid Office here at the University of West Georgia. And what we have for you all this morning, we have 10 FAQs and 10 tips. As we get started, you'll see real emails that we receive from students, and hopefully these will address any questions that you all may have. Kind of like I was saying at the beginning, if you have any of your own questions, you can submit those to the Q&A. What we'll do is we'll hold all questions and we'll answer all questions at the end of this webinar all at one time. Okay. If you have any questions that are student specific, so specific to you and your situation, you're welcome to email us directly at finaid@westga.edu. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Um, uh, all right.
Okay, so our first email says, "Good evening. I just applied. I filled out my FAFSA on April 2nd, and I am seeing that the fall 2020 FAFSA deadline was April 1st. Does this mean I do not qualify to receive any financial aid for the fall?"
Thank you for asking. Um, so the April 1st deadline is essentially it's a soft deadline that we have out there. It's not necessarily a deadline that students have to necessarily worry about. Our actual deadline is July 1st. Now, students they can submit applications, or they must submit applications and documents by this date to guarantee that they are awarded prior to the fall fee payment deadline. Um, the fall fee payment deadline is typically the last week of July, but that deadline right now is still to be determined. However, if you wanted to see where all the deadlines are, you can go to westga.edu and search the scoop. And then on there, you'll be able to see there are different semesters. You'll see fall 2020. If you click that, it'll take you directly to a calendar that has all of the deadlines for that semester. Now, we do process and award financial aid throughout the entire year. So, meaning, even if we receive your FAFSA application or any outstanding documents after July 1st, we're still going to process your account. It will still process your awards and we'll still get you awarded as quickly as we can. The only thing is, though, if anything is received after July 1st, we just can't guarantee that you'll be awarded prior to that first fall fee payment deadline, which is still to be determined.
Thanks, Will. Our
You're welcome.
second email says, "I completed my FAFSA back in January and selected UWG as the recipient of my information. I got an email on 2/25 saying that I have not turned in a FAFSA for the upcoming school year. Do I need to do something else to get this to you?"
Thank you for asking, Leanne. Always ensure what you want to do is when you're submitting your application, always ensure that you've included our school code, which is 001601, and that you've completed the correct year FAFSA application. All the time, sometimes we see that families that complete the FAFSA application and they may have made a mistake and left our school code off. The good thing is you can go back to your FAFSA application, sign in with your FSA ID, click Make Corrections, and once you're signed in, you can add our school code on that application that you've already done, possibly, and resubmit it, and then we'll get your application. Typically, we get applications about 3 to 5 business days after you've pressed submit on your side. And then from that point, you can reach out to us if you wanted to check on any award status. Now, going back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, if there are two different applications shown on studentaid.gov, two different FAFSA applications, for example, right now, you'll see the 2019-2020 application and the 2020-2021 application. If you're starting your enrollment in summer, so if you're starting summer 2020, then you're going to want to complete the 2019-2020 FAFSA application. if you're starting your enrollment in the fall, so in fall 2020, then you're going to want to complete the 2021 application. Now, of course, if you're going to be starting in the summer and continuing into the fall, you're going to want to complete both of these applications. So just that's just something you want to make sure you keep in mind. If you have any questions about your application status, once again, you can reach out to us and we'll check on it for you. Okay.
Thanks, Will.
You're
The
welcome.
next question. Hello, to whom it may concern. I see an EFC at the end of my FAFSA application. What does this number mean for my financial aid?
Thank you for asking, Leanne. So this is actually a question we get fairly often. EFC, uh, it's an abbreviation for expected family contribution, but the EFC is not necessarily, or it's not what your family will pay for your college education. It's not at all, actually. The EFC is just a number that's determined based on the data that you input on the FAFSA application, such as income, parent and family income, or household size, the amount of people in college. All those different data elements are combined to create the EFC. And then the EFC is used to determine the student's eligibility for need-based aid, such as federal Pell Grant. The same EFC is occasionally used for institutional need-based scholarships as well. So kind of just to recap, like I said, it is not the amount that your family will pay for your college education. All right. Thank you, Leah.
Thanks, Will. The next question says, how will I know how much I get from FAFSA?
So this thing, this really depends. So students, what they'll do is, or what we'll do is, we send an email to students my.westga email address. So that's why we highly recommend that students access one login and access that Gmail email account. And if you have a smartphone, add the email account to your smartphone so that you're constantly receiving updates from us and from other offices on campus. Because once you are admitted, then that is where we are communicating with you primarily, is through that my.westj email. Now, once you've been awarded, we send an email, and the title of that email is "Congratulations, your financial aid award for 2020-2021 is ready." So if you want to go see if you have that email or if you've been awarded, you could simply log into your Gmail account and search. I mean, you could search one of these keywords on here. You could search "congratulations" and see if that email comes up in your Gmail inbox. Now, when you access the email will have steps in it for you to actually log in and see what your awards are. Okay. Now, the amount of aid that you actually receive is dependent upon the information on the FAFSA application as well. So that could differ from student to student.
Thanks, Will. So the next popular email that we get says, Dear all, why am I being asked to verify my FAFSA?
Yes, we do get this email quite a bit. Um, so occasionally, every now and then, some students, they are required to submit a few extra documents before we're actually able to award them their financial aid. Verification and selection, we as a university or as an office or as an institution, we don't do the selection. Verification selection is random. And basically all we're in charge of doing as a university or as a financial aid office is collecting the necessary documents needed to verify, different data on your FAFSA application. There's some students do see a situation where they submit their application and a lot of students think that once they submit it they're done, but that's not necessarily always the case. Now, documents, if you have any outstanding documents, they must be submitted by July 1st. Now, we will receive, or we will accept documents after July 1st as well, but it just goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier. If we get the documents before or on July 1st, we can guarantee that they'll be processed by the final fee. I'm sorry, by the first fee payment deadline in July, which is typically the last week of July, but still to be determined right now. If we do get documents after July 1st, we'll still process them, and we'll work just as hard to make sure we get them processed. We just can't guarantee that they'll be processed by that first fee payment deadline. Now, we do send emails to students' accounts for those students that are missing documents. So you could go into that same Gmail account and search I believe you can search missing documents. You can search missing documents in your Gmail account. And if there is an email that we've sent to you communicating that you have missing documents, it should come up in that search. And you're going to want to make sure you follow those steps as soon as possible and as quickly as possible to get those documents submitted to us. Now, one thing I do want to note is that although I'm saying documents, it's all electronics, electronic document submission. So you're not actually physically having to print or mail or fax anything. It's the whole process is done electronically. Now, one thing that we're all experiencing right now is COVID-19. And so I think COVID-19 has impacted different families in different ways. If your family's income was impacted by COVID-19, you can reach out to our office directly to finaid at westj.edu. Just send us an email and we can discuss possible options or things that may be available for you in your specific family situation.
Thanks, Will.
All right, no problem.
So, our next question. Hello. I would like to know how to file for a Parent Plus loan.
All right, so we do get this question fairly often as well. Um, so some students will receive a Parent Plus loan offer. Now, uh, the Parent Plus loan is only offered on the student's account, or all loans are only offered on the student's account, but the Parent Plus loan cannot be accepted in the student's portal. The Parent Plus loan, if the parent decides that that loan is one that they'd like to pursue, and just to kind of give you a brief idea of what the Parent Plus loan is, essentially the Parent Plus loan is a loan that the parent applies for on studentaid.gov. That's a separate loan in their name, but it's for the student's educational purposes or pursuit. So that's what that loan is. Um, if the family decides that that loan is necessary or needed, they would have to complete a separate application on studentaid.gov. We do have instructions on our website of how to complete that application. So if you were to go to westj.edu, let me see which slash, I think it's forward slash, no, it's a backslash, westj.edu backslash FINAID. And you were to click tools, you'll see how-to guides. If you click how-to guides, there's a document there that explains how to complete the Parent Plus loan application. Now, the application for 2020, 2021, so the application for students starting in fall 2020, that application isn't available right now, but it will be available on May 1st of this year, of course. And so next month it'll be available.
Okay, hello. We wanted to know, how does UWG's financial aid process work? Also, how does the Hope Zell Miller Scholarship affect a prospective student's financial aid?
Thank you for asking. Um, so all free aid, and what we mean by free aid is we mean aid that doesn't have to be repaid. Um, so Hope, Zell Miller Scholarship, Federal Pell Grant, institutional scholarships, all of those things are automatically accepted on the student's behalf. And they're automatically applied to the student's account once the student registers in courses. Loans, however, are only offered on the student's account. And we do that because we understand that not everybody necessarily may want or need those loans, and that's often it's a choice that people may want to make. Um, Now, if loans are deemed necessary, students can accept those. Uh, Let me see, can you go over how to understand everything? If loans are deemed necessary, students can accept those on their student account through one login. So if you log into one login and you search financial aid, there you'll actually be able to log in and see what your financial aid award offers are. Okay. Now, if you do decide to accept loans, if you go in there and you accept the student loans and you don't do anything else, then those loans won't actually be applied to your account. And the reason is, even after accepting student loans, there are additional things that must be completed. And two of those things are the master promissory note and loan interest counseling. And those must be completed on studentaid.gov. And also, we have more information about both of those on our website. So once again, if you go to westj.edu backslash FINAID, and go to how-to guides. We have a guide on there, how to complete master promissory note and entrance counseling. And there's also a short 1-minute video that explains what both of those things are and how they impact you. Okay. Um, all financial aid is applied directly to the student's bill once they've been registered for courses. Now, Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship do pay at an hourly rate. More information about how much or about the rate can actually be found on our website as well. Here's another question we get fairly often is I often get students that qualify for Zell Miller. They ask, can I receive, both Hope and Zell Miller at the same time? And the answer is you can't. You can't receive Hope and Zell Miller scholarship at the same time. So, of course, if you qualify for Zell Miller, since it's the one in which you're receiving the highest benefit, that one that you receive. Now, to actually check on your Hope or Zell Miller eligibility status, you can check georgiafutures.org, or you can actually, your high school counselor should be able to or can be able to provide you with information regarding that status as well. Um, and you should, if you are eligible, it should be on your account if you've been awarded. Trying to go to the next slide here. There we go.
Okay, is there a difference in the amount of money awarded if the credit hours applied are less than 12?
Thank you for asking. So, in short, yes, uh, but it really depends. So, if a student is receiving federal Pell Grant, um, federal Pell Grant pays out in full if the student's enrolled at least full time. And so 12 credit hours or more is considered full time. Now, if a student enrolls in less than 12 credit hours and they're receiving federal Pell Grant, what will happen is that federal Pell Grant award will be reduced or it will be prorated based on their actual hours of enrollment. The and here's another thing too is Hope and Zell Miller scholarship pay per hour. So a lot of students think that they have to be enrolled in at least 12 credit hours to receive Hope and or Zell Miller, but that's not actually the case because it does pay per hour. Now, we do recommend that students heed the advice and follow their academic advisor's recommendations when it comes to enrolling in courses and how many hours to receive. So if your academic advisor says that you should enroll in 15 or 12, however it may be, we suggest that you do what your academic advisor says because ultimately they're the experts on credit hours and courses, not necessarily our office. Um, Really the only time this per hour piece comes into play is for students that are wanting to enroll in summer courses and receive Hope or Zell Miller for the summer. And so say for instance, after your fall 2020 semester, your spring 2021 semester, you decide that you want to go home and you want to take courses from home for summer 2021. You could or you will, if you're eligible for Hope Scholarship, you can receive Hope Scholarship over the summer to pay for those courses. If you decide to take just 6 hours, Hope Scholarship will pay for those 6 hours because it does pay per hour. So loans, this is, although it's not on the slide, I do want to address this. So if a student does decide that they wanted to receive federal student loans, you must be enrolled in at least 6 credit hours to receive those. Usually that requirement doesn't necessarily impact students as much because usually most students are enrolled in more than 6 credit hours anyway. So that's that. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry,
There,
guys. That
no, it's
was
okay.
muted. Will my federal Pell Grant be factored into my tuition before it's due, or will I have to pay it all up front and be reimbursed?
So, um, so kind of like I was mentioning previously, thank you for the question, by the way, Leanne. All student aid is applied directly to the student's bill. Um, so, if a student, okay, so like I said, the aid is applied directly to the student's bill. If a student can pay their balance out of pocket, then they're welcome to pay any balance out of pocket that remains their um, after their financial aid is applied to the bill. Because in some cases, financial aid does not cover the student's entire bill. And in those special circumstances, the student can elect to sign up for the university's tuition payment plan, for example. For in the tuition payment plan, what it does is it takes any balance that the student has and it splits that balance up and makes the payments more manageable over the course of a certain amount of months. Now, the thing to keep in mind about the tuition payment plan is it's not a loan. There's no interest. And the way the tuition payment plan works, the sooner you sign up for it, the better the payment plan is because it splits up wherever balance it is over the course of more months. Now, if you want more information about the tuition payment plan or other methods for payment out of pocket, you can check westga.edu / Bursar. Okay. All right.
Okay, so the next question is about federal work study. The student says, so it looks like I was awarded $3,000 for the fall 2020, spring 2021 school year. When I am placed in a job position, will that money be used to pay me, or do I receive that money plus my regular pay?
That's a really good question. So, thank you, by the way, Leanne. We do get this question very frequently, and the reason is some students, when you get your financial aid award offer and you're looking at your award offer, what you'll see on there for some students is you'll see a federal work study offer. Typically, it's $3,000 for the year. It's 1,500 for the fall and 1,500 for the spring. And so, the number one question we get from students is, will that amount be awarded to me as a lump sum? And they typically follow up with, okay, um, if it will not be awarded to me as a lump sum, will it be at least applied to my bill to cover any tuition or charges that I have? And so, in short, the answer is the $3,000 lump sum is not applied to the student's bill, and is not. I'm sorry, it's not applied to the student's bill and it's not received as a lump sum. What that offer does is it allows you, or it pretty much signals to you that you are eligible to apply for federal work study positions. Okay. The way federal work study positions work is uh, you would treat them just like any other job where you go through the application process. If selected, you would actually from there you would go through an interview process. And once you are hired, or if you are hired for a position, then you are paid bi-weekly. You work up to 20 hours per week, and those funds would be sent to your checking or savings account of your choice. And then from there, you can use those funds for any education-related expenses that you may incur. So, just to kind of recap, the funds do not go to your bill; they do not go to charges. It's like a regular job where the money just goes directly to your pockets and you use it for whatever you need. Um, Now, if you're interested in any federal work study or positions, you must apply for them, and you can apply for them on westga.edu / career services. All right. Oh, so we're done with the Q&A portion. So what we can do, and these are the Q&As that we receive. We'll address your Q&As here at the end. But we have 10 tips here that we want to provide you with. These are some things that we feel like will benefit you knowing them. The first tip is to do your FAFSA application. There are a lot of parents, there are a lot of families that don't do the FAFSA application because they assume, oh, I won't receive anything, oh, we won't get anything. But the FAFSA application is well worth your time. It takes 30 minutes, maybe 30 to 45 minutes at most, and so it's definitely worth it. Number two is apply for scholarships now and after your first year. So a lot of times seniors in high school, when they're going into college, they're applying for scholarships like crazy that first year. But for whatever reason, after their first year, a lot of students never apply for scholarships again. But what students have to realize is that there are scholarships for continuing students as well. So, that same mindset that you have now, that you may have where you're applying for scholarships, like crazy, you can continue that. And we do encourage that you do continue that throughout your enrollment. The one of the best places actually, and the best place to apply for scholarships is the University of West Georgia scholarship search. So if you were to just go to westga.edu and search scholarships, you'll be brought to this university scholarship application, and it's a really good application that applies. There's one application that applies to students for hundreds of scholarships. Research costs. So ultimately, when it comes to the whole college experience and your student breakdown bill, you're basically building your bill based off of your housing and meal plan selection. So, when you're choosing, which residence hall you're going to stay in or which meal plan you're going to select, make sure you're in the back of your mind. You're also thinking about what you have available financial aid wise to cover any charges, whether those charges be housing or meal plan or any of those things. Another thing is use our website. I can't tell you all how much information is on our website. We have videos on our website. We have a variety of information on there. We even have a chat. There's a chat on our website. It's an 8 to 5 chat. If you have any questions, you can chat us and we'll get back to you quickly on that chat. So use our website. Use the University of West Georgia's website. So if you're at home, you're needing, you want to just surf the internet, you can surf the University of West Georgia website. Just kind of look at some of the departments, look at some of the different resources that are available to students, and just kind of go from there. It's just good to familiarize yourself with the website. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but always reference the scoop. When you're a lot of students here on campus, even now, they do recognize the importance of the scoop. It's westga.edu/scoop. That is the university's calendar, essentially. You'll see things on there such as fee payment deadlines, when courses start, when semesters start. When semesters start, you'll see breaks, so you'll know when the different holiday breaks. You'll also see finals. When is finals week, and so those different things are on that calendar, and the calendar is split up by semester. Um, Borrow smart. This is really important. I think this is on a lot of students' minds now, even more than it was previously. But we recognize that your first semester may be, or your first year may be fairly expensive. You may have to borrow, or you may, although you didn't want to, you may have to. But as you move, as I would say, as you matriculate and change grade levels, then you may be able to borrow less. So if you have any questions about, how to reduce your borrowing or any of those things, you can also email us and we can um, see if we can figure out something for you. Now, always check your University of West Georgia email account. That's also very, very important. I think if you could count how many times I said University of West Georgia email in this presentation, it would be quite a few. And that's because it's very important. It's just, I'm stressing it to you because that is the primary way that we'll communicate with your office. So just make sure you're checking that email. Know your Hope and Zell Miller scholarship status. Hope and Zell Miller Scholarship are both very important. I mean, over the course, that's the potential for a student to receive 2,500 plus dollars per semester if you're eligible for Hope or Zell Miller. So just make sure you know the status for those. And if you have any questions, make sure you ask us as soon as possible. And we see it frequently where students they have questions, but for some reason, whether it be, they I don't know, they typically wait, a little late to ask us those questions. So ask as early as possible. Trust us. No question is there's no such thing as a bad question, or a crazier question. Just ask us. If you assume that it's something, or we feel like it's something that you should know, we don't. We don't assume there's anything. So just ask us, and we're more than happy to provide you with the information. I think that concludes the tips and the main portion of our presentation. I think we can move into the Q&A. I do see we have received a few here. Um,
Yeah, well, I can go through those and ask you the questions if you don't mind.
okay. I'm,
Okay. The first one has to do with breakdown bill. I know that we don't have an example of a breakdown bill
mhm.
ready to go for this presentation, but we can probably talk about it a little bit. The prospective student asked, "Can you go over how to understand everything on the student breakdown bill?"
That's a really good question. We've seen so many of them. I'm kind of picturing one in my head. So if a student goes to one login, if you go to one login and you search, I think you could search my bill or you can search bill. I forgot. It's one of those. uh, what you'll come to is you'll come to the student breakdown bill. Now, what the student breakdown bill is that bill itemizes your charges against any financial aid that you're eligible for. So on the left side of that bill are your charges. You'll see your tuition and charges. You'll see in-state or out-of-state, depending on your student status. You'll see different fees. So, like, you may see the athletics fee, technology fee. You'll see those fees on the left-hand side of that bill. You'll also see the cost for your residence hall. So if you've been assigned a residence hall, you'll see that on the left side of that bill. Your meal pay or your payment, your I'm sorry, your meal plan, you'll see the charge for that on the left side. And then on the right side, at the top right of that bill, you'll see any financial aid charges that you or any financial aid related monies that you're receiving to actually cover the charges that you're receiving. And what happens is the two, they're subtracted from one another, and at the bottom of the bill, you'll see whether or not you have a balance or not. And so if you have a balance, then that's when you're thinking about, if your financial aid doesn't cover the charges, then like I said, you have the balance, and then that's where you look into different options, or you can reach out to us to figure out how can you cover that balance, and kind of go from there. Am I forgetting anything, Leanne? I feel like I'm forgetting something.
No, I think that's pretty good. To the student who asked us that, if you still have questions about the breakdown bill, feel free to reach back out to us at the email address that's on the screen there.
And I do want to mention one more thing too about the bill. The bills, they update frequently. I would say probably uh, every 24 to 48 hours with financial aid. So say for instance you registered in 6 hours, and then later you registered and you increased your enrollment to 12 hours. Then if you look at your bill at that moment, then the financial aid may not be updated or it may not be on there. So typically if you change enrollment and you increase enrollment, at least give it a day or two for your bill to update with financial aid charges. And if then the bill doesn't update, you can reach out to us and we'll figure out, why it didn't or if it should update.
Great advice, Will. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
the next question is, how many credit hours do you need in the summer semester to qualify for financial aid?
That's a good question. I was laughing because thinking about summer and fall hasn't started, but that's good. That's good. I like that. So to answer the question, federal Pell Grant. So if a student's receiving federal Pell Grant for fall 2020 and spring 2021, they can actually receive it for the summer as well. But they're going to, in order to receive it for the summer, they're going to need to be enrolled in at least 6 credit hours. Um, as it relates to federal student loans, if a student is eligible for federal student loans in the summer, then they're going to want to be enrolled in at least 6 credit hours to receive those that funding as well. Now, for Hope and Zell Miller scholarship, like I said a little bit earlier, there is no credit hour minimum to receive Hope or Zell Miller during the summer. So a student can enroll in 3 credit hours during the summer and receive Hope or Zell Miller scholarship. But just keep in mind, typically Hope and Zell Miller alone will not cover your tuition and fee charges or tuition and fees. So that's just something to keep in mind. Um, Another really important thing I want to point out about summer is summer, we consider summer to be a leftover term. And so what I mean by that is when we award you, we're only going to award you for fall and spring. Okay. We're going to, and so when you look at your student award, your awards will be split in half between fall and spring semester, and you'll look at it and you won't see summer on there. The reason you won't see summer on there is because we don't actually process or start summer awarding until say February or March. If in the fall or whenever you start, you're thinking, okay, I might need to have some money left over for the summer. I think I might want to take summer classes. Then what you're going to want to do is just accept only some of your fall and spring awards. And then the amount or in the portion of your fall and spring awards that you don't accept will actually be left over, and it will be awarded to you in the summer. So Do you have anything else to add, Leanne? Or do you think this?
Yeah, and you may have addressed this part, and I may have. I was writing down some questions, so I may have missed it. But we do want to make sure that students know that. Let's say that they are a brand new student. They just graduated high school in May, and they want to come for this summer. We mentioned before that for this coming upcoming summer, they'll want to fill out the 1925. So it's possible that they may only need to take 3 hours in order to receive a Pell Grant, or just
Mhm.
one class in order to receive a Pell Grant. If you don't go to school full time, which is 12 hours for financial aid, so if you aren't enrolled in at least 12 hours for each semester, then you might have some leftover Pell Grant for the summer. It gets kind of complicated from there. So if you just want to reach out to us via email, we could probably answer that much easier on an individual basis there.
Thank you for adding that. I did not, so thank you.
Okay, so our next question, hello, are there any financial aid options for international students?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, um, typically, for international students, I think that what they're going to do is, uh, there's some institutional scholarships available. So on campus we have the Office of International Student Programs and Admissions. I think, is that right? Yeah, that's right. They have some funding available, so they have some scholarships, or they can point international students to the appropriate places for scholarship funding. As far as federal aid and state aid are concerned, unfortunately, there's not much there. And that has nothing necessarily to do with the University of West Georgia. That's just the federal and state. That's just how it is, unfortunately. Um, Now, another place that students could look, I understand that not, you may not want loans. I understand that, but it is an option. Some private lenders do lend to international students. So, what I mean by private lenders is, banks. So certain banks have I'm sorry, they have private student loans in which they will lend to international students. um, if you're wanting to look into private student loans, you can actually check our website. So our website, once again, it says westga.edu/FINAID. On our website, you can see, I believe it's aid or financial aid. It's at the top toolbar. You click the toolbar, you'll see private loans. We actually have a list that populates. It's an interactive list that has all the different lenders. And so, if you have any questions about if that lender lends to international students, we do recommend that you contact the lender, and they'll tell you if they do or do not, and if they do, what those requirements might be. So, do you have anything else to add, Leanne?
No, I think that's great. I
Okay.
think we have one last question here in the Q&A section. What would my cost of attendance, the COA, be affected if I have a sibling also attending the university? I'm sorry, I cut myself out.
That's a really good question. So, um, and I should have addressed cost of attendance, but I didn't address it because it's a question we usually don't get for some reason. But when you receive your award letter and you're looking at your awards, you'll see the cost of attendance. The cost of attendance may be, I think it's for an incoming freshman. I think it's like 21,708 or something like that between fall and spring semester. The cost of attendance isn't necessarily the cost that the student will pay to actually attend for fall and spring. And so I know that, and so the cost of attendance has a few things that are built into it. And there are some things that are estimates. So in the cost of attendance, tuition and fees are built in. Those are going to be actual tuition and fees. Transportation costs, those are estimates. So you'll see, a transportation cost in the cost of attendance, but you may not necessarily spend that for transportation for your semester. So like I said, the cost of attendance isn't necessarily what it actually costs to attend. I know that sounds crazy, but it's not necessarily the cost. Now, to address the question, um, that if another sibling is attending a college, that really isn't, that's not impacting your cost of attendance at the University of West Georgia. Really, the only thing that impacts is your FAFSA application. So if you on the FAFSA application, one of the questions is, it asks how many people are in the household, and then it also asks how many people in the household are in college. As long as you've included that person in that count, then what happens is, your EFC, your expected family contribution, is takes that into account. Okay, that there is another person in the household in college, and so from there, the EFC may be a little bit lower, depending on uh, how many people are in college, and then that could, depending on how low the EFC is, that could result in additional eligibility for other need-based aid. The answer to that question really depends. It's kind of almost a student-specific question. I feel like. What do you think, Leanne?
I think that covers it.
Hmm.
If there are any more questions that you asked that didn't get an answer, know that we will reach out to you via your West Georgia email account, and so we'll get those answers back to you. But I think that does it for us.
I do see one more here. Did we want to? When do you see the cost of attendance on the student's account? Um, it said, when do you see the cost of it? So, I mean, the cost of attendance. Okay, so I think we might be. So, the cost of attendance, you'd actually see that on the student's award offer. Now, like I said, the cost of attendance is just not necessarily what it costs to attend the university. What you're going to want to look at to actually know how much you're paying to attend is the student breakdown bill. Okay, the student breakdown bill is your actual charges. So, like I said, that's the bill where you're going to want to search one login. You're going to go to one login, and search my bill or bill, and that's the bill you're going to look at. You probably won't see anything on that bill until you're actually registered in your classes. So, my apologies, Leanne. I didn't mean to. I think we're good.
No worries at all.
Okay. Oh, we have another queue. At least they're coming in. Let's see. It says, when do scholarships go out? I think that's a really good question. So if you're an incoming student, I think what you may want to do when it comes to scholarships is reach out to admiss or admissions. So you may want to email admiss@westga.edu. So that's ADMISS at westga.edu. And they'll be able to give you a better timeline on scholarship awarding and scholarship selection. All right. I think that's it, Leanne.
Yeah, and I think that Dylan in the chat section put the admissions office email address. So if you want to jump into that chat section to all of our attendees, you can see that email address there. But I think that covers it. Will.
Yeah, I think so too. Um, Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. As Leanne said, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. Send us an email. All right. You all have a good rest of your day and have a great week.
Thanks everyone. Have a great
All right.
week.
Bye bye.